Every day, law enforcement officers face challenges when trying to serve and protect the communities in which they work. In order to better understand and overcome these challenges, a department may emphasize an overarching philosophy that influences behavior and infrastructure. Community-oriented policing is a philosophy that promotes partnerships between law enforcement and community members to proactively address public safety issues. It emphasizes organizational structures designed to support connections among community members and allow for cooperation among citizens and officers. Preventing crime, solving problems, and preserving justice can seem impossible when community members disregard, misunderstand, or resist the tactics of police. However, when the community and the police can work together, these goals become much more achievable. When community-oriented policing is successful, citizens can have more control over their quality of life by actively participating in the identification and solution of community problems. This in turn makes police work safer and more effective. With community members and police acting as allies, neighborhoods become safer and crime is prevented. Community members voice their concerns, contribute advice, and provide resources to police, enhancing the efficacy of law enforcement. Because of the focus on collaboration with the community, community-oriented policing is often viewed as a way to enhance citizen satisfaction and police legitimacy. In order for a police force to be viewed as legitimate, it must be lawful and unbiased. Citizens must feel that they understand police actions and can trust the motivation of officers. Police legitimacy is the foundation of police authority. When a community views its police as biased or corrupt rather than legitimate, it ceases to respect the authority of police, which greatly diminishes officers' ability to be effective. One main goal of community-oriented policing is to increase police legitimacy by enhancing public trust in law enforcement. Citizens should feel officers' top priority is protecting the best interests of the community. If this feeling is widespread, community members want to help police. Working together, the community and police department can achieve the common goal of creating a safer, better society. Community-oriented policing supplements crime control tactics with strategies to address disorder and neglect, reducing residents' fear of crime. When community members are less fearful, they tend to be more inclined to take an active role in preserving peace and safety in their neighborhoods. Provided this sense of power, citizens are more likely to institute and support community organizations and programs, which defend against lawlessness and encourage social responsibility. This decreases the number of problems the community faces and allows community members and police to focus energy and resources on problems they find most pressing. Community-oriented policing is a relatively new term for what is actually an old concept. Centuries ago, policing was a task villagers and townspeople took on together. Community volunteers would act as watchmen, and neighbors would warn one another of possible dangers. Constables and sheriffs were among the first official law enforcement officers, and they were typically considered prominent community leaders. Researchers have suggested that the separation of the police from the community began in the early 1900s, when there was a reform in government and a cultural shift towards professionalism. Police departments instituted centralized control, designed to ensure standard operating procedures and an unbiased atmosphere. Patrol officers were assigned rotating shifts and moved frequently in attempts to cover more ground and eliminate corruption. Rapid response became a major focus, which limited police interaction with the community. All of these changes isolated officers from the communities they served, causing a break in the link between the people and the police. Because many officers were overburdened, prejudiced, or corrupt, law enforcement eventually came to symbolize oppression, and officers became the targets of hostility, leading them to self-reflection and analysis. In the 1970s, civil rights reform made a number of policing organizations commit to researching and improving policing methods. Studies challenged prevailing police practices and beliefs, and the field uncovered many revelations. Practitioners discovered that only a fraction of crimes were being reported, which implied the need for better communication between communities and police. They learned patrolling had a limited impact on crime, causing police leaders to think about alternative ways to use patrol personnel. Additionally, they found that in most cases, rapid response did not necessarily help solve crimes. Because while prompt police response can increase the chance of making an on scene arrest, the time it takes for a citizen to report the crime largely predetermines the effect police response time can have. All of these discoveries led police departments to conclude that developing stronger relationships with members of the community was more important than once thought. They realized that interaction with the community could allow officers to obtain a realistic view of community needs and expectations, as well as valuable information about criminal activity and perpetrators. Ultimately, these core beliefs led to the advancement of community-oriented policing throughout the 1980s, 1990s, and new millennium. Today, the need for community-oriented policing is as real as ever. As populations continue to diversify, society's values and expectations are changing quickly and creating new challenges for law enforcement. Although much progress has been made, it takes time and effort to break down the barriers of mistrust and apathy so meaningful relationships can be formed. Until citizens and law enforcement build mutual bonds of interest and trust, policing will fail to produce desired results. Only when community members genuinely believe the police are interested in community perspectives and problems will they begin to view law enforcement as a welcome part of the community. And only when police feel safe and welcome in communities will they be able to thoroughly contribute to the prosperity of the community. Police departments must make a continued effort to ask the community for help and support by implementing and promoting outreach programs. Law enforcement must enable communities to be stronger and more self-sufficient while providing for the protection of the welfare of all residents. Community-oriented policing is democracy in action and requires the active participation of the entire community. Everyone has a role to play, from local government and businesses to churches and schools to civic leaders and residents. All who are invested in the prosperity of the community should bear responsibility for safeguarding that prosperity.